I married her out of pity. Nobody else wanted that fat cow. Those venomous words slipped right out of my son-in-law's mouth during a family lunch. His family didn't gasp. They applauded. My daughter Chloe just lowered her head in shame. That was the moment I stood up, smiling, and said something that wiped the smirks off their faces forever. But before I tell you how I destroyed them with the truth, you need to understand how we got here. Nothing hurts quite as much as watching your own daughter break into pieces right in front of your eyes. My name is Linda Miller. I'm 59 years old. I am an architect. I founded my own construction firm 25 years ago, and I have worked my entire life to give my children what I never had: education, dignity, and the certainty that they could be whoever they wanted to be. Chloe was my only daughter, the youngest of 3 siblings. Since she was a little girl, she was different. She wasn't the thinnest, she wasn't the most popular, but she was the brightest. By 8 years old, she was already reading architecture books that I left on my desk. At 12, she designed her first blueprint. At 18, she got into university with the highest grades in her class. I kept a photograph of her in my wallet. She was 11 years old in that picture. She was sitting in my office with oversized glasses and a ruler in her hand, smiling as if the whole world belonged to her. I still have that photograph, but the little girl in that image took many years to return. Because when Chloe was 23, she met Brad Sterling. Brad was the son of a traditional old money family from Seattle, the Sterlings of Mercer Island. His father had been a judge. His mother was the president of a country club. Brad studied business administration but never finished his degree. He claimed that family business didn't require a piece of paper, just experience. Chloe met him at a wedding. He was 27. He was tall, well-dressed, with that specific kind of confidence that comes from never having worked a day in your life. He told her she was different from all the women he knew, that she wasn't superficial, that she was intelligent. Chloe came home that night with shining eyes. "Mom, I met someone." I hugged her, I saw her smile, and I wanted to believe everything would be okay. But there are things a mother feels deep in her gut, a warning bell that rings even when you try to muffle it. I felt something off from the very beginning. Brad would take hours to reply to her texts, and he would cancel plans at the last minute. He said he was busy with family matters, but he never specified what those matters were. One Saturday afternoon, Chloe cried in my kitchen. "I don't know what I'm doing wrong, Mom. Sometimes I feel like I'm not enough for him." I dried her tears. I told her that if someone made her feel that way, they didn't deserve her time. But Chloe had something I knew well, that mix of intelligence and fragility, that need to prove she was worthy of love. Brad knew it, and he used it. He started telling her she was special, not like those other frivolous and empty women, that he valued her brain, not her appearance. It sounded like a compliment, but it was poison, because every time he said that, he was also saying, "You are only valuable because you think the way I want you to. Your body doesn't matter. In fact, your body is a problem." And Chloe began to change. She stopped wearing the dresses she liked. She started wearing baggy clothes, darker colors. She stopped going to the gym because Brad said she didn't need to impress anyone. She stopped going out with her girlfriends because he said they were bad influences. I saw all of this, and it hurt me. But Chloe was in love. And love, when it is blind, can be the worst kind of prison. A year after they met, Brad proposed. It was at his parents' house, a formal dinner. Chloe arrived nervous. Brad pulled out a simple ring. She said yes through her tears. His mother, Diane Sterling, hugged her and said, "It's so good my son found someone with her feet on the ground." I was there. I heard the tone. It wasn't a compliment. It was a classification. Chloe didn't notice. She was too happy. That night, when we went back home, she showed me the ring over and over again. "Isn't it beautiful, Mom?" I nodded. But what I thought was, I hope that ring doesn't turn into a chain. Have you ever trusted someone you shouldn't have? Have you been disappointed by a person you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. The wedding was celebrated 6 months later. Chloe was 24. I was 35 when I had her, so that day I turned 59. It was in June at a vineyard in Napa Valley. It wasn't the wedding I would have dreamed of for her, but it was what Brad and his family wanted. Diane, Brad's mother, organized everything. She chose the venue, the colors, the menu, even the music. Chloe just nodded along. When I asked her if she was sure about everything, she told me, "Mom, it's just easier this way. They have experience with these things." That sentence broke my heart. My daughter, who had designed entire buildings at 20 years old, who had won university awards, who had led projects with men twice her age, was now saying it was easier to let others decide for her. The day of the wedding, I went into her room early. She was sitting in front of the mirror with the dress on. It was a beautiful dress, white, simple, with long sleeves. But when I saw her, I noticed she was crying silently. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" She wiped her tears quickly, as if she were afraid someone else might see her. "Nothing, Mom. It's just, I'm nervous." I knelt in front of her. I took her hands. "Chloe, look at me. If you don't want to do this, don't do it. It doesn't matter who is outside. It doesn't matter the money spent. You are the only thing that matters to me." She smiled, but it was a sad smile. "I do want to, Mom, really. It's just that sometimes I feel like I'm not enough for him, that his family deserves something better." I felt a lump in my throat. "You are more than enough. You are brilliant. You are generous. You are beautiful." Chloe lowered her gaze. "Brad says the important thing is what's on the inside, not the outside. And he's right. But sometimes I wish he would tell me I'm pretty." That day, I should have taken her out of there. I should have hugged her, put her in the car, and driven her far away. We tell ourselves it's just nerves, that we are overreacting. But deep down, a mother always knows when her child is walking into a storm. But I didn't do it, because I thought maybe I was exaggerating. Now, I know I was wrong. The ceremony was correct. Brad put the ring on her. Chloe smiled. But I noticed something. When the priest said, "You may kiss the bride," Brad gave her a quick peck, almost obligated, like someone signing a receipt. At the reception, Brad's family occupied the main tables. There were so many of them, uncles, cousins, family friends, all dressed in expensive suits, all talking about business, properties, investments. My family was at the back tables, my brothers, my nephews, some of Chloe's friends from college. Diane Sterling marched up to me during dinner. "Linda, it's so good Chloe found this stability. A girl like her needs a man to guide her." I squeezed my wine glass. My daughter doesn't need anyone to guide her. She knows exactly where she is going. Diane smiled with that fake smile women have when they think kindness is just a mask you wear. "Of course, but you know how marriages are. The man steers the ship. The woman makes the house a home." I didn't answer because I knew arguing with her made no sense. But I kept those words. I stored them away like you store a warning. Chloe and Brad went on their honeymoon to Maui. 2 weeks. When they came back, Chloe was different, quieter, thinner. Brad said it had been a relaxing trip, but I noticed my daughter avoided my gaze. A month after the wedding, I went to visit her at her new apartment. They lived in a nice area of Seattle, near Brad's parents' house. It was a spacious apartment, well decorated, but everything was impersonal, like a magazine catalog. "Do you like your home, honey?" Chloe nodded while making coffee. "Yes, Mom. Diane helped me decorate it. She has very good taste." "And you? What did you choose?" Chloe stayed silent for a moment. "Well, I chose this." She pointed to a small plant in the kitchen window, a fern. It was the only living thing in that whole house. I swallowed hard. "And Brad, is he working?" Chloe lowered her gaze. "He's helping his dad with some paperwork. He says he'll open his own company soon." "And you? Are you going to keep working with me at the firm?" Chloe bit her lip. "Brad thinks it's better if I take some time. He says being married is a full-time job." I felt the floor move beneath my feet. "Chloe, you studied for 6 years. You are an architect. You have pending projects." "I know, Mom, but Brad is right. I need to focus on my marriage now." That afternoon, I left her apartment with a broken heart because I saw something I didn't want to see. I saw my daughter disappearing, and the worst part is that she didn't even realize it. The months followed. I called Chloe almost every day. Sometimes she answered, sometimes she didn't. When she answered, her voice sounded tired. She said she was fine, that Brad was good to her, that her mother-in-law visited often and taught her how to cook properly. One Friday, I invited her to lunch, just the two of us. She accepted. We met at a restaurant she had liked since she was a girl, a simple place with clam chowder and sandwiches. Chloe arrived late. She apologized, saying Brad needed the car. I didn't say anything, but I noticed she had arrived in a taxi. We ordered, we ate, we talked about trivial things. But halfway through the meal, Chloe started to cry. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" She shook her head. "Nothing, Mom. It's just that sometimes I feel lonely." "Lonely? What about Brad?" Chloe dried her tears with a napkin. "Brad is busy. He's always busy. And when he gets home, he's tired. He says he needs silence, that I talk too much, that I ask too many questions." I squeezed her hand. "Chloe, listen to me. You don't talk too much. You are an intelligent woman who deserves to be heard." She smiled, but it was a broken smile. "Sometimes I think Brad married me because I wasn't like the others. Because I wasn't going to demand anything from him. Because I was going to be grateful." That phrase went through me like a knife. Grateful for what? Chloe looked down. That he chose me. I wanted to scream at her that she was wrong, that she was the prize, that any man should be grateful to have her. But I saw her face, I saw her fragility, and I knew it wasn't the moment to push. "Honey, if you ever need to come home, my door is always open." Chloe nodded, but she didn't say anything else. That night, in my house, I took out the photograph I kept in my wallet. The 11-year-old girl with big glasses and a ruler in her hand. That girl who smiled as if the world were hers. And I wondered where she had gone. While I tell you this, I wonder where you are listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. 6 months passed since that meal. Chloe turned 25 in November. I organized a small dinner at my house. I invited my sons, my brothers, some of Chloe's close friends from college. Nothing flashy, just people who truly loved her. Brad arrived late. Chloe had already blown out the candles on the cake when he walked through the door. He didn't apologize. He just said he had an important meeting with his father. During dinner, Brad barely spoke to Chloe. He spent most of the time on his phone. When someone asked him something, he answered with one-word answers. Chloe tried to excuse him, saying he was tired. My oldest son, Rob, came up to me in the kitchen. "Mom, that guy doesn't treat her right." I nodded in silence. "I know." "And what are you going to do?" I stayed silent because I didn't know what to do. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. That night, after everyone left, I found Chloe in the garden. She was sitting on the bench where she used to sit as a child. Her eyes were red. "Are you okay, honey?" She nodded without looking at me. "Yes, Mom. I'm just tired." I sat beside her. "Chloe, are you happy?" She took a long time to answer. When she did, her voice was barely a whisper. "I don't know what being happy is, Mom. I just know I'm married, and I have to make it work." "Why do you have to make it work all by yourself? Why doesn't he do it too?" Chloe looked at me with those eyes I had known since she was born. "Because I have more to lose." That sentence broke me. More to lose? What can you lose that is more important than your peace? Chloe looked down. "My dignity, Mom. If I separate now, everyone is going to say that I couldn't handle it, that I wasn't enough, that that's why he left me." I hugged her tight. "Nobody is going to say that. And if they do, who cares? You are worth more than any comment." Chloe cried in my arms, but at the end of the night she left with Brad, and I stayed in my house, feeling like I was losing my daughter little by little. The following months were worse. Chloe stopped coming to family gatherings. When I called her, she answered with evasive answers. She said she was busy, that Brad had commitments, that his family needed her presence. In March, almost 4 months after her birthday, I received a call from Chloe on a Wednesday morning. Her voice sounded strange, dull. "Mom, can I come to your house?" "Of course, honey. Are you okay?" "Yes, I need to talk to you." She arrived an hour later. She was wearing dark sunglasses. When she took them off, I saw her eyes were swollen. She had been crying for hours. We sat in the living room. I made tea. Chloe held it in her hands without drinking. "What happened?" She took a deep breath. "Yesterday I had an argument with Brad." "Why?" Chloe looked down. "Because I told him I wanted to go back to work, that I missed architecture, that I felt useless at home all day." "And what did he say?" Chloe squeezed the teacup. "He told me that I didn't understand anything, that the wives in his family don't work, that it's embarrassing that I want to go out on the street as if he couldn't support me, that I looked desperate." I felt my blood boil. "Desperate? You have a university degree. You have experience. You have talent." Chloe started crying again. "That's what I told him, Mom. I told him I had studied for 6 years, that I had pending projects, that you were waiting for me at the firm." And Chloe closed her eyes. "He told me that your company is a waste of time, that it's a little company for women who don't know how to do real business, that if I go back to work with you, I'm going to turn into a bitter woman like you." Those words hit me like a slap, not because of what they said about me, but because Chloe had heard that and hadn't defended anything, not herself, not me. "And what did you say?" Chloe opened her eyes. They were empty. "I didn't say anything, Mom." I stayed quiet, because if I had said something, he would have gotten angrier. I stood up. I walked to the window. I needed to control myself. There is a specific kind of rage that burns in a mother's chest when she realizes her child is being erased, person by person, word by word. I needed not to say what I was thinking, because if I told Chloe what I really thought of Brad, she was going to defend him, and I was going to lose her too. "Chloe, listen to me carefully. You don't have to stay quiet. You don't have to take insults. You don't have to live like this." Chloe shook her head. "You don't understand, Mom. It's not that easy." "Why isn't it easy?" Chloe stood up. Her voice rose in volume. "Because I love him. Because sometimes he is good to me. Because when we are alone, when he isn't stressed, he talks nicely to me. He tells me I'm special, that I'm different." I closed my eyes because I recognized that, the cycle, the manipulation, the abuse disguised as love. "Honey, that isn't love. That is control." Chloe grabbed her purse. "I knew you weren't going to understand. That's why I don't tell you anything." "Chloe, wait." But she was already walking out the door. That afternoon, I stayed alone in my house. I took out the photograph of Chloe as a child. I looked at it for hours, and I cried. I cried because I was watching my daughter destroy herself, and I didn't know how to save her. 2 weeks later, Chloe called me as if nothing had happened. She said she was fine, that Brad had been more affectionate, that they had gone out to dinner, that he had bought her flowers. I didn't say anything because I knew those flowers were just another trap, another hook to keep her engaged. But what I didn't know is that the worst was yet to come. In May, a year and 2 months after the wedding, Brad lost his job. Not that he had a real job. He worked at his father's law office doing administrative paperwork, but his father got tired of him arriving late, of him not following through, of him spending more time at the gym than at the office. One morning, Frank Sterling, Brad's father, told him he wasn't going to pay him anymore, that if he wanted money, he had to find a real job. Brad arrived home furious. Chloe told me later that he screamed for hours, that he said his father was ungrateful, that the whole family was betraying him, that nobody valued him. But what impacted me most was what came next. Chloe suggested that she could go back to work, that she could help financially while he looked for something better. Brad exploded. He screamed at her that he was the man of the house, that he was the one who gave the orders, that she wasn't going to humiliate him by working while he rested, that he would rather be dead than let her support him. But the reality is that Brad had no money, no savings, no real skills. Everything he had ever had in his life had been given to him by his parents, and now, for the first time, he was cut off. That was when I made a decision that would change everything. I called Chloe and told her I needed help at the construction firm. I told her I had a big project, that I needed someone I trusted. I offered her a generous salary. Chloe accepted, but she asked me not to tell Brad how much she was earning. She asked me to tell him it was very little, that she was just helping out. And I accepted, because I understood that lie was the only way to protect her. Chloe started working with me in June. At first, she came in nervous, scared, but little by little she started to bloom. She started to smile again. She started to design again. She started to be herself. And I, without her knowing, started depositing her salary into an account that only she could touch, an emergency account, in case one day she needed to run. But Brad didn't look for a job. Not during June, not during July, not during August. He stayed at home all day, playing video games, watching TV, going out with his friends, while Chloe worked from Monday to Saturday, designing projects, supervising sites, earning the money that paid the rent, the food, the utilities. And Brad didn't say thank you. He said, "Finally, you're good for something." I knew this because one afternoon, Chloe arrived at the office crying. She told me Brad had said that while she was making dinner. Finally, you're good for something, as if she were an object, as if her value depended on how much money she brought home. I clenched my fists. "Chloe, how long are you going to take this?" She wiped her tears. "I don't know, Mom. I just know I'm tired." And I was tired too. Tired of seeing my daughter break. Tired of shutting up. Tired of being diplomatic. But I still hadn't seen the worst. Because the worst arrived on a Sunday in December. A Sunday that changed everything. You ever feel like you are giving everything and getting nothing back? Like you are carrying a dead weight up a mountain? Tell me your story in the comments. September arrived with rain. That month, Chloe had been working with me at the firm for 3 months. She had recovered some of her shine. Not all of it, but some. When she arrived at the office in the mornings, she still had that tired look, as if she hadn't slept well, as if she were carrying an invisible weight on her shoulders. But when she reviewed blueprints, when she supervised sites, when she solved problems, she became the brilliant woman she had always been. I saw that transformation every day, and it hurt me to know that as soon as she left the office, she dimmed again. One Thursday afternoon, we were reviewing the design of a house on the outskirts of Seattle, a big project. The client wanted something modern, but warm. Chloe had done a beautiful job. Huge windows, open spaces, an interior garden that connected all the rooms. "This is incredible, honey. The client is going to be fascinated." Chloe smiled. It was a genuine smile. "Thanks, Mom. I like this project. It reminds me of when we designed together and I was still in university." I squeezed her hand. "We still design together, and you are going to design many more things." Chloe nodded, but her smile faded a little. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I had kept working since I got married, if I hadn't left everything to try to be what Brad wanted. It's never too late to recover your path. Chloe looked down. "But I already lost time, Mom. I already lost opportunities." I shook my head. "You didn't lose anything. You are here. You are designing. You are alive. That is what matters." Chloe hugged me, and in that moment I felt that maybe, just maybe, she was finding the strength to get out of where she was. But that same night, everything changed. Chloe arrived late to her house. It was almost 8 at night. We had been checking structural calculations and lost track of time. When she realized the time, she went pale. "Oh my God, Mom. Brad is waiting for me. I didn't tell him I was going to be late." "Call him. Tell him you're working." Chloe took out her phone. She had 17 missed calls, all from Brad. "Oh no, he's furious." "Chloe, you are working. You have the right to be late." But she was already packing her things, nervous, scared. "I have to go, Mom. I have to go now." I watched her run out, and I stayed in the office, feeling a rage I didn't know how to control. The next day, Friday, Chloe arrived quiet. Her eyes were red. She didn't eat breakfast. She just sat at her desk and started working without saying a word. Mid-morning, I approached her. "Are you okay?" She nodded without looking at me. "Yes, Mom, I'm fine." "Chloe, look at me." She looked up. Her eyes were full of tears. "What happened last night?" Chloe took a deep breath. "Brad was angry, very angry. He said I had left him waiting as if he were a dog. He said it seemed like work was more important than him, that I was changing, that I was becoming arrogant." I clenched my fists. "You are not arrogant. You are working. You are making your living." Chloe shook her head. "But you're right, Mom. I should have told him. I should have arrived early. I should have been more considerate." "Considerate? And him? When has he ever been considerate with you?" Chloe stayed silent. And I understood. I understood she was so deep in that cycle that she could no longer see reality. She could no longer see that she wasn't the problem. The following days were tense. Chloe arrived early and left early. She said Brad needed her to be home, that he was looking for work and needed support. But I knew the truth. Brad wasn't looking for work. Brad was controlling her. A week later, on a Monday afternoon, I received a call from Diane Sterling. "Linda, I need to talk to you." Her tone was cold, calculated. "Tell me." "It's about Chloe. I think she is working too much. Brad tells me she arrives tired, stressed, that she doesn't have time to tend to her home anymore." I felt my blood boil. "Chloe is working because she wants to, because she is a professional." Diane laughed. It was a dismissive laugh. "Please, Linda, Chloe doesn't need to work. Brad can support her." "With what money? Brad hasn't worked for months." There was a silence on the other end of the line. "That is temporary. Brad is evaluating options. He isn't going to accept just anything. Meanwhile, Chloe pays the rent. Chloe pays for the food. Chloe pays for everything." Diane raised her voice. "That is your fault. You put those ideas in her head. You made her believe she can be something more than a wife." I hung up. I couldn't keep listening to that garbage. But that call made something clear to me. Brad's family knew perfectly well what was happening, and they didn't care. To them, Chloe was just a resource, a woman who had been lucky enough to marry their son, and now she had to pay for that luck, working, providing, enduring. That night I called Chloe. I told her about the call. I thought she was going to be angry. I thought she was going to defend her right to work. But no. Chloe just said, "Oh, Mom, you shouldn't have spoken to Diane like that. Now she's going to be upset." "And why do I care if she's upset? She has no right to tell you what to do." Chloe sighed. "Mom, please. I don't want problems. I already have enough." "Chloe, I have to hang up, Mom. Brad just got home." And she hung up. I stayed with the phone in my hand, feeling like I was losing my daughter again. The days followed. October arrived. Chloe celebrated 1 year and 4 months of marriage. There was no celebration. No dinner. Brad didn't even buy her flowers. But what did happen was a new escalation of humiliations. Brad started inviting his friends to the house during the day, men his age who didn't work either, men who lived off their parents, off their wives, off whatever. They gathered to play video games, drink beer, talk about business deals they were never going to make. And when Chloe arrived from work, tired, with dirty clothes from having been at a construction site, Brad would say in front of his friends, "Look who's here, the architect. Aren't I lucky, a wife who works to keep me?" His friends laughed. Chloe lowered her head and went to the kitchen. Chloe told me this one afternoon while crying in my office. "I don't know what to do, Mom. I feel like whatever I do, it's wrong. If I work, I'm a bad wife. If I don't work, I'm a moocher. If I speak, I'm stubborn. If I stay quiet, I'm stupid." I hugged her. "Nothing you do is going to be enough for him, because he doesn't want you to be enough. He wants you to feel small." Chloe sobbed. "Why? Why does he do this to me if he says he loves me?" "Because that isn't love, honey. That is something else." Chloe pulled away from me. "But sometimes he does love me, Mom. Sometimes he hugs me. He tells me I'm important. He tells me that without me, he would be lost." I closed my eyes because I knew those words were part of the game, the cycle, the trap. They mistreat you, then they comfort you, and you stay because you think the person who comforts you is the real one, not the one who hurts you. But they are the same person. In November, Chloe turned 26. I organized another dinner at my house, but this time, Brad didn't come. He said he had an important meeting. Chloe arrived alone. That night, after everyone left, Chloe stayed with me. We sat in the garden on the same bench where we had talked a year before. "Are you happy, honey?" Chloe took a long time to answer. When she did, her voice was barely audible. "No." "Then why do you stay?" Chloe looked at me with eyes full of tears. "Because I'm scared, Mom. Scared of being alone. Scared that you're right. Scared that everyone will say, I failed." I took her face in my hands. "Listen to me closely. You are not the one who is failing. It's him. He is the coward. He is the one who doesn't deserve you." Chloe cried in my arms, and I cried with her. But at the end of the night, she left. She went back to her house. She went back to him. And I stayed alone, wondering how much more my daughter was going to endure before breaking completely. December arrived cold. The holidays were approaching, and with them, an invitation that would change everything. Diane Sterling organized a family lunch for Sunday, December 20th, at her house with the whole Sterling family, uncles, cousins, grandparents, everyone. And she invited me. Me, Chloe's mom, the little woman with the company, the bitter one. I didn't want to go, but Chloe asked me to. "Please, Mom, I need you to be there. I need you to accompany me." And I accepted because I would do anything for her. But what I didn't know is that that Sunday, in that house, in front of that family, something was going to happen that none of them would ever forget. Something that would wipe the smiles off the Sterlings' faces forever. The days leading up to Sunday, December 20th were strange. Chloe was nervous, more nervous than usual. I noticed she was distracted at work, looking at her phone constantly, biting her nails. On Wednesday of that week, we were reviewing a budget when her phone rang. It was Brad. She answered immediately. "Yes, honey. Yes, I know. Yes, I'm going to buy the wine you like. Yes. No, I won't be late. I promise you." She hung up and took a deep breath. "Everything okay?" She nodded, but her hands were trembling. "Yes, Mom. It's just that Brad wants everything to go perfectly on Sunday. He says his family is going to be complete, that it's important I make a good impression." "Good impression? You've been married to him for over a year. What more impression do you have to make?" Chloe bit her lip. "It's just that Diane invited the whole family, including the uncles from New York, the rich ones, the ones with the big companies. Brad says maybe they can give him a job, that it's an important opportunity." I clenched my jaw. "And what is he going to do to get that job? Or is he just going to wait for his family to gift wrap it for him?" Chloe looked down. "Mom, please, don't start." "I'm not starting anything. I'm just telling the truth." Chloe closed the budget folder. "The truth is that I need that day to go well. I need Brad to be calm. I need his family to stop looking at me like what?" Chloe closed her eyes. "Like I'm not enough for him." Those words broke my heart again, because my daughter had spent a year and a half feeling like she wasn't enough, feeling like she had to earn a place that was already hers by right. "Chloe, listen to me. You are more than enough. The problem isn't you." Chloe stood up. "I have to go, Mom. I have to stop at the supermarket." "Are you cooking for that meal?" "No, Diane is going to cook, but I have to bring some things, wine, bread, some flowers." "And Brad, is he going to bring anything?" Chloe looked at me with a sadness she no longer knew how to hide. "Brad is going to bring his presents, Mom. That is enough for them." And she left. That night I couldn't sleep. Something unsettled me, something beyond the meal, something beyond the family. There was something in Chloe's voice that told me she was hiding something else. Thursday morning, I arrived early at the office. Chloe arrived half an hour later. She had deep, dark circles under her eyes. "Did you sleep well?" She shook her head. "Not really. Brad and I had another argument last night." "Why?" Chloe sat at her desk. She took out a folder, but didn't open it. She just held it in her hands. "Because I told him I didn't want to go to the lunch on Sunday. I looked up, surprised. You told him that? Chloe nodded. Yes, I told him I felt uncomfortable, that his family always makes me feel small, that I don't want to be there listening to comments. And what did he say? Chloe squeezed the folder. He got mad. He told me I always exaggerate, that his family treats me well, that the problem is I am too sensitive, that I need to mature. I closed my eyes and counted to 10. Chloe, you are not too sensitive. You are reacting to something real. Chloe looked at me with shining eyes. Then why do I feel like I'm crazy, Mom? Why do I feel like maybe he's right and I'm exaggerating everything? That question broke me. Because it was the question of someone who had been manipulated for so long, she no longer trusted her own perception of reality. You aren't crazy, and you aren't exaggerating. What's happening is that he makes you doubt, because if you doubt, he has control. Chloe started to cry silently. Sometimes I think about leaving him, Mom. Sometimes I think about packing my things and getting out of there. But then I think about what his family is going to say, what his friends are going to say, how everyone is going to see me. I got up and knelt in front of her. And what does it matter what they say? They don't live your life. They don't know what you endure every day. They aren't in your place. Chloe sobbed. But you don't understand, Mom. If I leave him, everyone is going to say that I couldn't do it, that I wasn't a good enough wife, that that's why he treated me like that. They're going to say it was my fault. I took her face in my hands. Then let them say it. But you will be alive. You will be free. And that is the only thing that matters. Chloe hugged me. She cried on my shoulder for several minutes, and I held her, wishing I could carry her pain for her. When she calmed down, she wiped her tears. I'm going to go to that lunch, Mom. I'm going to go because I need to try one more time. I need to see if there is something to salvage from this marriage. I nodded. Although inside I knew there was nothing to salvage, I couldn't tell her because she needed to discover it for herself. Friday, Chloe didn't come to work. She sent me a text saying she had to help Brad with some things for the lunch. I didn't insist. I knew pressuring her would only push her further away. Saturday afternoon, Chloe called me. Mom, you're going tomorrow, right? Yes, honey, I'll be there. Thanks, really. I need you to be there. Are you okay? There was a long silence. I don't know, Mom, but tomorrow I'll know. That sentence unsettled me, but I didn't ask more. I just told her I loved her, and we hung up. That night, while I prepared the clothes I was going to wear the next day, I thought about everything that had happened in the last 2 years, since Chloe met Brad until now. I thought about all the signs I had seen, all the times I had stayed quiet, all the times I had wanted to scream at her to get out of there. And I thought about what was going to happen tomorrow, in that house full of people who looked at my daughter with contempt, in that family that treated her like an object. I took out the photograph of Chloe as a child, the one I kept in my wallet. I looked at it for a long time. Tomorrow I'm going to defend you, my love, whatever happens. Sunday dawned cloudy. It was cold. I put on a simple burgundy dress, nothing flashy, nothing that called attention, just something dignified. I arrived at Diane's house at 1 in the afternoon. It was a big house, colonial style, in one of the best neighborhoods in Seattle. There were several cars parked outside, expensive cars, BMW, Mercedes, and Audi. I rang the doorbell. A housekeeper opened the door. She led me to the back garden. There they were, the entire Sterling family. Frank, Brad's father, with his gray suit and impeccable mustache. Diane, with her designer dress and pearl necklace. The uncles from New York, with their gold watches and shiny rings. The cousins, with their designer bags and hollow laughs. The male cousins, with their pressed shirts and airs of superiority. And in the middle of them all, Chloe. She was sitting in a chair, quiet, with her hands on her lap. She was wearing a simple beige dress, no makeup, no jewelry, as if she wanted to disappear. Brad was standing next to her, but he wasn't looking at her. He was talking to his cousins, laughing, drinking beer. When she saw me arrive, Diane approached with that fake smile I already knew. Linda, so good you could come. We are very happy to have you here. Thanks for the invitation. You're welcome. After all, you are Chloe's mom, your family. But her tone said the opposite. It said, you are a tolerated guest, nothing more. I sat next to Chloe. I took her hand. It was cold. Are you okay, honey? She nodded without looking at me. Yes, Mom, I'm fine. But she wasn't fine. I knew it. The lunch began. Diane had prepared a banquet. Roast beef, glazed ham, salads, desserts, all served on fine china. Everything perfect. The uncles from New York talked about their businesses, their investments, their trips to Europe. Frank talked about his days as a judge. Diane talked about her country club. Nobody asked Chloe anything. It was as if she didn't exist. And Brad didn't speak to her either. He kept drinking beer. He kept laughing with his cousins. He kept ignoring her. I watched all of this and felt the rage growing inside me. But I still hadn't seen anything, because the worst was yet to come. And when it arrived, when Brad opened his mouth and said those words, everything changed. Everything. I still ask myself if I did the right thing that day. And you? If you saw your daughter being humiliated in front of a whole family, what would you have done? The meal continued with that air of falseness that gatherings have, where everyone pretends to be comfortable. I observed every gesture, every look, every veiled comment. I was there for Chloe, only for her. At 2:30 in the afternoon, Diane asked everyone to move to the main dining room. It was a long, dark wood table with upholstered chairs and a huge chandelier in the center. Everything screamed money, but it didn't scream love. It didn't scream real family. We settled in according to Diane's instructions. She at one head of the table, Frank at the other. The uncles from New York on the sides, Brad next to his father. And Chloe and I, almost at the end of the table, in the corner, as if we were a footnote. The soup was served, the wine was served, the conversations flowed, but always the same ones. Business, money, properties, who bought what, who sold what, who knew whom. Frank raised his glass. I want to propose a toast to the Sterling family, to our roots, to our tradition, and for continuing to be an example of what it means to be good people in this country. Everyone raised their glasses. I did too, but I didn't drink. I just observed. Chloe didn't drink either. She had her eyes fixed on her plate, as if she wanted to disappear into it. One of the uncles from New York, Uncle Richard, a man of about 60 with gray hair and a deep voice, looked at Brad. Brad, your father tells me you still haven't found something to work in. Brad smiled. It was an uncomfortable smile. I'm evaluating options, Uncle. I don't want to accept just anything. I want something worthwhile. Uncle Richard nodded, but his look was skeptical. I understand, but it's been, how long? 6 months without working? 7, Uncle, but I'm not worried. Something is going to come up soon. Diane intervened quickly. Brad is very careful with his decisions, not like others who accept any little job just out of necessity. That phrase was directed at me, or maybe at Chloe, or maybe at both. I didn't say anything, but I felt my shoulders tense up. Uncle Richard looked at Chloe for the first time since we arrived. And you, Chloe? Do you work? Chloe looked up, surprised that someone asked her something. Yes, Uncle. I work at a construction firm. Construction firm? Whose? Chloe looked at me quickly and then lowered her eyes again. My mom's? Uncle Richard raised his eyebrows. Ah, I see. And do they pay you well? Chloe turned red. It's a fair salary. Brad let out a laugh. It was a dismissive laugh, short, like a bark. Define fair, honey. Chloe looked at him. There was pain in her eyes. But there was also something else. There was fear. It's a good salary, Brad. Brad leaned back in his chair and took another swig of beer. Yeah, right. A good salary in a little family business. I gripped my silverware with such force my knuckles turned white. One of the cousins, Javier, a guy about 30 with gelled hair and a striped shirt, laughed. And what do you do in that construction firm, Chloe? Bring coffee to the bricklayers? Everyone at the table laughed. Everyone except Chloe and me. Chloe tried to smile, but it was a broken smile. No, I'm an architect. I design projects. Diane intervened with that sweet and venomous voice she had. How nice, sweetie, but I hope you don't neglect your responsibilities at home. Brad needs a present wife, not a tired employee. I was about to say something. I was about to stand up and tell that woman everything I thought of her. But Chloe looked at me, and in her look there was a plea. Please, Mom. No. So I stayed quiet. But inside, I was boiling. The meal continued. The comments, too, one after another, like small but constant stabs. At 3:30, they served dessert, creme brulee, perfectly presented. Frank spoke again. Brad, I think Uncle Richard has a proposal for you. Everyone looked at Uncle Richard. He wiped his mouth with his napkin and looked at Brad. That's right. I need someone to supervise one of my warehouses in Tacoma. It's a simple job. You just have to be present, check inventories, sign documents. I'd pay you $3,500 a month to start. Brad straightened up in his chair. For the first time in the whole meal, he seemed interested. Sounds good, Uncle. When would I start? In January, but I need you to commit. No arriving late or missing days. It's a serious job. Brad nodded. Of course, Uncle. You can count on me. Uncle Richard looked at him intently. Sure? Because your father tells me your work record hasn't been the best. Brad turned red. That was before, Uncle. Now I'm focused. Now I know what I want. Uncle Richard nodded slowly. Okay, I'll trust you. But at the first failure, you're out. Brad smiled. There won't be failures, Uncle. I promise you. Diane clapped. How wonderful. You see, Brad, I told you everything would come in time. God rewards patience. I almost choked on my water. Patience? Whose? Brad's, who had spent 7 months doing nothing while my daughter worked 12 hours a day to support him? But I didn't say anything. Yet. Then Brad looked at Chloe, and what he said next was what lit the fuse. See, babe, now you won't have to work so much. Now you won't have to carry everything. Chloe nodded in silence. Javier, the cousin, spoke again. Hey, Brad, but $3,500 a month isn't much. How are you going to manage? Brad shrugged. Chloe is still going to work. For now, until I can grow in Uncle's company. One of the younger uncles, Uncle Hector, a chubby man with glasses, laughed, meaning Chloe is going to continue being the breadwinner. Brad frowned. It's temporary. Uncle Hector leaned back in his chair. Temporary, right. And how much does Chloe earn? More than you? Brad tensed up. That doesn't matter. Of course it matters. If she earns more, technically, she is the one supporting you, right? Everyone at the table went quiet, waiting for Brad's answer. Brad clenched his jaw. He drank more beer. And then something in him changed. I saw how his face hardened. I saw how his eyes filled with rage. Rage against Chloe. Rage against me. Rage against the world. And then he said what he had been keeping inside for months. You know what? Yes, Chloe supports me. So what? I married her knowing what it was. Chloe looked up, surprised, scared. Brad! But he didn't stop. The beer, the pressure, the humiliation he felt in front of his family, everything came out at once. Brad stood up. He looked at his family. And then he looked at Chloe with a contempt I had never seen in anyone. I married her out of pity, because nobody else wanted her, because she is a fat cow who should be grateful that someone like me chose her. The silence that followed was deafening. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. And then, the worst part. Brad's family started to laugh. First it was Javier, then Uncle Hector, then the cousins, then the uncles. Everyone laughed, as if it were a joke, as if humiliating my daughter in front of everyone was something funny. Diane covered her mouth, but her eyes shone with that cruelty that people who enjoy others' pain have. Frank shook his head, smiling, as if saying, "That's my son. What character?" And Chloe? Chloe lowered her head. Her shoulders started to tremble. The tears fell on her plate, but she made no noise. She didn't scream. She didn't defend herself. She just broke in silence. And I felt something I had never felt in my life. I felt absolute calm, a perfect clarity. I stood up from my chair. Everyone stopped laughing and looked at me. I smiled. I smiled the same way they had smiled. And then I spoke. My voice was calm, firm, without a trace of doubt. "Brad, are you finished?" He looked at me confused. "What?" "I asked if you are finished, if you already said everything you wanted to say about my daughter." Brad frowned. "It's not your problem, Linda." I kept smiling. "You're right. It's not my problem. It's yours." "What are you talking about?" I took a step toward him. The whole table watched me in silence. "You talked about how my daughter, that fat cow that according to you nobody wanted, is the only reason you still have a roof over your head. You talked about how for 7 months she has paid your rent, your food, your beers, and your outings with your useless friends. You talked about how she works 12 hours a day designing projects that you couldn't even understand." Brad went pale. "Linda, but I hadn't finished. And since we are talking about truths in front of your family, let's talk about another truth. Brad Sterling works for me. Did you know?" Everyone at the table froze. Frank frowned. "What are you saying?" I looked Brad directly in the eyes. "I'm saying that 3 months ago, when your son couldn't find work anywhere, when no company wanted him because he has a reputation for arriving late, for not following through, and for not knowing how to do anything, I gave him a job. Out of pity. For my daughter." Brad shook his head. "That is a lie." I took out my phone. I opened my email. I showed it to Frank. "Here is the contract. Brad Sterling, administrative assistant at my construction firm. Salary, $1,500 a month. Less than what my construction workers earn, because it is all he is worth." Frank read the email. His face changed completely. Diane went pale. Brad stood there, trembling. That's not," I interrupted. "You know what is the saddest part, Brad? That the only reason I haven't fired you is because my daughter asked me to. She told me, 'Mom, please, give him a chance. He needs to work. He needs to feel useful.'" I looked at the whole Sterling family. My daughter, that woman you just called a fat cow, that woman who, according to you, nobody wanted. That woman has been begging for you, defending you, supporting you, saving you. Uncle Richard, the uncle from New York, spoke for the first time with a hard voice. "Brad, is this true?" Brad couldn't speak. He just looked down. I continued. "And since we are here in front of your whole family, I'm going to say something else. Brad doesn't know how to do anything. The only thing he knows how to do well is clean toilets. And that's because I taught him. Because when he arrived at my company, he didn't even know how to answer a phone correctly." Diane stood up, furious. "That is enough. How dare you come to my house to insult my son?" I looked at her intently. "I didn't come to insult anyone. I came because my daughter asked me to. But your son decided to humiliate her in front of all of you, and you decided to laugh. So now everyone is going to hear the truth." I turned to Chloe. She was crying, but now she was looking at me with open eyes. "Chloe, get up." She hesitated. "Mom." "Get up, honey. It's enough." Chloe stood up slowly. I took her hand. "We're leaving. Now." Chloe nodded. She took her purse, and together we walked toward the exit. Behind us, I heard the absolute silence of the Sterling family. Nobody stopped us. Nobody said anything. Because for the first time in a long time, they had no words. The smiles they had had minutes before had been erased forever. And as we left that house, while Chloe cried silently beside me, I knew something had changed, something profound, something irreversible. We left that house in silence. Chloe walked beside me as if she were in shock, as if she couldn't process what had just happened. I guided her to my car. I opened the passenger door. She sat down without saying a word. I started the engine. We left that neighborhood of big houses and perfect gardens. Nobody followed us. Nobody came out to stop us. The Sterling family stayed inside, digesting what they had just heard. I drove in silence for 10 minutes. Chloe looked out the window. The tears kept falling, but she wasn't sobbing anymore. It was a silent cry, the most painful kind. When we arrived at a red light, I turned to look at her. "Are you okay, honey?" Chloe didn't answer. She kept looking out the window. "Chloe, look at me." She turned slowly. Her eyes were red, swollen. But there was something else. There was a question, a doubt. "Why did you do it, Mom?" I frowned. "Why did I do what? Why did you give Brad a job? Why didn't you tell me?" I took a deep breath. The light changed to green. I kept driving. "Because you asked me to, honey. 3 months ago, when Brad had been without work for 4 months, you came to my office crying. You told me he was depressed, that he felt useless, that he needed something to make him feel valuable. You begged me to give him a chance." Chloe closed her eyes. "I don't remember that." "Because you have blocked out many things, my love. Because you have been surviving, not living." Chloe covered her face with her hands. "And why didn't you tell me how much you were paying him? Why didn't you tell me you put him to clean toilets?" I stopped the car on the side of the street. I turned off the engine. I turned completely toward her. "Because you asked me not to tell you anything. You told me, 'Mom, please, pay him whatever, but don't tell me how much it is. I don't want to know. I just need him to have something.' And I accepted, because I love you, because I would do anything for you." Chloe started crying again, but this time it was different. It was a cry of liberation, of rage, of accumulated pain. "And the thing about cleaning toilets, is it true?" I nodded. "It's true, but it wasn't a punishment, Chloe. It was because it's the only thing he could do well. I gave him administrative tasks, answering phones, organizing files, taking documents from one place to another. He couldn't handle anything. He arrived late. He made mistakes. He spent all his time on his phone. The workers complained about him. So I put him to clean the offices and the bathrooms at the end of the day. And there it worked, because it was something he couldn't ruin." Chloe sobbed. Oh my God, Mom, why didn't you tell me? Why did you let me keep believing that he was looking for work?" "Because you wanted to believe that, because you needed to believe that he could change. And I wasn't going to take that hope away from you, not until you were ready to see it for yourself." Chloe took a deep breath several times, trying to calm down. "And the job Uncle Richard offered him, the $3,500 a month?" I shook my head. "It won't last. Brad doesn't know how to work under pressure. He doesn't know how to keep a schedule. He doesn't know how to be responsible. He's going to fail, and Uncle Richard is going to fire him in less than 2 months." Chloe wiped her tears with the sleeve of her dress. "How can you be so sure?" "Because I've been running a company for 25 years, honey. Because I've seen hundreds of people work, and I know how to recognize someone who doesn't have what it takes. Brad isn't evil by nature, but he is weak, and weakness, when not worked on, turns into cruelty." Chloe looked out the window again. "And now what am I going to do, Mom? Where am I going to go?" I took her hand. "You're going to come to my house. You're going to stay with me as long as you need. And tomorrow we are going to go to your apartment to pick up your things." Chloe shook her head. "I can't do that. I'm still married to him." Still what, Chloe? Do you still love him?" Chloe closed her eyes. The tears fell again. "I don't know, Mom. I don't know what I feel. I just know I'm scared." "Scared of what?" "Scared of being alone. Scared that he's right. Scared that nobody else will want me. Scared that I am the problem." I took her face in my hands, forcing her to look at me. "Listen to me closely, Chloe Elena Miller. You are not the problem. You were never the problem. You are brilliant. You are beautiful. You are valuable. And any man who can't see that is blind, or a coward, or both." Chloe cried in my arms for several minutes. I held her, stroking her hair, remembering when she was a little girl and cried over skinned knees or friends who had hurt her. But this was different. This was a deeper pain, a pain that doesn't heal with a kiss and a Band-Aid. After a while, Chloe pulled away from me. "Okay, Mom, let's go to your house." I started the car again. We arrived at my house 20 minutes later. It was 5 in the afternoon. The sky was gray, threatening rain. We went in. I made tea. We sat in the living room. Chloe held the cup in her hands, looking at the liquid as if it held all the answers. "How long did you know Brad was like that?" I took a sip of my tea before answering. "From the beginning, from the first time I saw him." Chloe looked up, surprised. "From the beginning?" "Yes. When you arrived home that night after meeting him, when you told me you had met someone special, I saw something in your eyes. I saw insecurity. I saw need, and I knew that any man who approached you in that moment wasn't going to be the right one." Chloe frowned. "Why didn't you tell me anything?" "Because you wouldn't have listened to me. Because you were in love. Or rather, you were in love with the idea that someone had chosen you, and I couldn't take that away from you, not without hurting you." Chloe lowered her gaze. "You're right, I wouldn't have listened." "I know. And that's why I stayed quiet. That's why I let you make your own mistakes. Because sometimes pain is the only teacher that truly teaches us." Chloe stayed quiet for a moment. "And if I had stayed, if you hadn't said anything today, if I had stayed quiet like always," I looked at her intently, "then you would have broken completely. And maybe you wouldn't have been able to recover." Chloe took a deep breath. "Thanks, Mom, for doing what I couldn't do." I squeezed her hand. "I'm always going to protect you, honey. Always." That night, Chloe stayed in her old room, the room that had been hers before getting married, before Brad, before everything. I gave her clean clothes, towels, everything she needed. We ate something light, soup and bread. Neither of us had much of an appetite. At 9 at night, Chloe's phone started ringing. It was Brad. She looked at the screen and then looked at me. "Do I answer?" I shook my head. "Not tonight. Tonight is for you, to rest, to breathe." Chloe turned off the phone and left it on the living room table. But at 10, the messages started coming to my phone. I saw them on the screen when I passed by the table. "Chloe, we need to talk. Please. Answer. It was a mistake. I didn't mean that. My family is mad at me because of you. I need you to come home. If you don't come back, I'm coming to get you." Every message was more desperate than the last, but also more manipulative. At 11 at night, there was a knock at my door. Chloe was in her room. I went to open it. I already knew who it was. Brad was on the other side. His hair was messy, shirt wrinkled, eyes red. He had been drinking. "Where is Chloe?" I crossed my arms. "Not your problem." "It is my problem. She's my wife." "Your wife, who you called a fat cow in front of your whole family." Brad clenched his jaw. "It was a mistake. I was angry. I didn't think." "Exactly. You didn't think. But you said it, and that is what you really think." Brad tried to pass. I stepped in the middle. "You are not coming into my house, Brad." "Let me talk to her." "No." Brad raised his voice. "She's my wife. I have the right." "You have no right. Not after what you did." Behind me, I heard steps. I turned around. Chloe had come out of her room. She was standing in the hallway, looking at Brad. Brad saw her, and his expression changed, softened, became vulnerable. "Babe, please, forgive me. I don't know what happened to me. It was the pressure, the family, everything. I didn't mean to say those things." Chloe walked slowly toward the door. I stepped aside, but I stayed close. "Brad, I'm tired." "I know, babe, I know, and I'm sorry. Really, I'm sorry. But I need you to come home. I need us to talk." Chloe shook her head. "I can't go back, Brad. Not now." Brad took a step forward. "Why? Because of what I said? I already told you I'm sorry. What else do you want?" Chloe looked at him intently. "I want you to tell me the truth. I want you to tell me if you really married me out of pity." Brad went pale. "No, babe, of course not. I love you." "You love me? Really?" Brad nodded desperately. "Yes, I love you. You're my wife. You are important to me." Chloe smiled, but it was a sad smile. "You didn't say I'm beautiful. You didn't say I'm valuable. You said I'm important, like an object, like something useful." Brad stayed quiet. Chloe continued. "For a year and 7 months, I have tried to be enough for you. I have worked, I have cooked, I have cleaned, I have endured your family's comments, I have endured your humiliations, and it has never been enough, because for you, I am never going to be enough." Brad shook his head. "That's not true." "Yes, it is, and you know it. That's why you said what you said today, because deep down, that is what you think, that I should be grateful, that you did me a favor, that I am less than you." Brad tried to get closer, but Chloe took a step back. "Don't come closer." "Chloe, please." "No, Brad, no more. I need time. I need to think. I need to be away from you." Brad changed tactics. His voice became hard. "And you're going to stay here with your mom, like a little girl?" Chloe raised her chin. "Yes, I'm going to stay with my mom, because she respects me, because she values me, because she has never called me a fat cow in front of anyone." Brad clenched his fists. "This is her fault. She put ideas in your head. She made you believe you are better than me." I intervened. "I didn't put anything in her head. I just showed her the truth, something you never did." Brad looked at me with hate. "This is between my wife and me. Your wife is under my roof, and while she is here, she is going to be treated with respect, something you don't know how to do." Brad took a threatening step toward me, but Chloe stepped in between. "Go, Brad, please, go." Brad looked at her for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "You are going to regret this. Both of you are going to regret this." And he left. He got into his car and left. Chloe closed the door. She leaned against it and started to shake. I hugged her. I held her while she cried. "It's over, honey. It's over." But we both knew it wasn't over, that this was just beginning. That night we both slept badly. I stayed awake in the living room, alert to any noise. Chloe stayed awake in her room, crying in silence. The next day, Monday, December 21st, we decided to go to Chloe's apartment to pick up her things. I didn't want her to go alone. I didn't trust Brad. We arrived at the apartment at 10 in the morning. Brad's car wasn't there. Chloe opened the door with her key. The place was a disaster. Empty beer bottles on the table, clothes thrown on the floor, dirty dishes in the sink, as if Brad had had a party, or as if he had simply let himself go. Chloe walked slowly through the apartment, looking at everything with sadness. This was my home. I put a hand on her shoulder. "It isn't anymore. Your home is where you feel safe, and here you aren't safe anymore." Chloe nodded. We went to the bedroom. She started packing her clothes in suitcases. I helped her. We gathered her documents, her books, her personal things. In the closet, I found something, an envelope. It was hidden between some shoe boxes. I opened it. Inside were photographs of Chloe, before getting married, when she still smiled, when she still had light in her eyes. I showed the photographs to Chloe. She looked at them and started crying again. "Look who I was, Mom. Look how I smiled." I hugged the photographs against my chest. "And you are going to smile like that again. I promise you." We finished packing at noon. We loaded the suitcases into the car. Chloe took one last lap around the apartment. She stopped in front of the kitchen window, where the fern was, the only plant she had chosen, the only living thing in that whole house. "Should I take it, Mom?" I nodded. "Take it. Take everything that is yours." Chloe took the fern. She held it carefully, and we left that apartment for the last time. When we reached my car, Chloe looked back one more time. Goodbye. I don't know if she was saying goodbye to the apartment, to Brad, or to the life she had tried to build. Maybe all three. We drove back to my house in silence. But this time, it was a different silence. It wasn't a silence of pain. It was a silence of closure. When we arrived at my house, we unloaded the suitcases. We took them to her room. Chloe sat on the bed. She held the fern in her lap. "Mom, do you think one day I'm going to be okay?" I sat next to her. "Yes, my love, you are going to be okay, but it's going to take time, and it's going to hurt, but you are going to heal." Chloe nodded. "Thanks for not abandoning me." I took her hand. "I would never abandon you. You are my daughter. You are my life." That afternoon, Chloe started unpacking, little by little, like rebuilding her life, one garment at a time. And I stayed close, vigilant, protective, because I knew the worst hadn't arrived yet. Brad wasn't going to stay quiet, and the Sterling family wasn't either. The following days were strange. It was Christmas week. The streets of Seattle were full of lights, carols, and families buying gifts. But in my house, there was a heavy silence, a silence of mourning. Chloe spent most of the time in her room. She didn't cry as much as before. Now she just looked out the window, as if she were processing everything she had lived, as if she were waking up from a long, dark dream. On Wednesday, December 22nd, I tried to get her out of her room. "Honey, come eat breakfast with me." She came out slowly. She was wearing one of my old sweaters. She looked small, fragile. But there was also something different in her look, something clearer. We sat in the kitchen. I made coffee and cinnamon rolls. She ate in silence. "How do you feel today?" Chloe took a while to answer. "I don't know, Mom. Sometimes I feel like I woke up from a nightmare. Other times, I feel like the nightmare is just beginning." I nodded. "It's normal. What you lived wasn't easy, and getting out of there isn't either." Chloe took a sip of coffee. "You know what's strangest? That I don't miss Brad. I miss the idea of what could have been. I miss the hope I had at the beginning. But him? I don't miss him." Those words gave me hope, because they meant she was starting to see reality. "That is good, honey. It means you are healing." Chloe looked at her coffee cup. "But I'm scared, Mom. Scared of what is going to happen. Brad isn't going to let me go just like that. His family neither." I took her hand. "I know, but we are going to face it together. You are not alone." That same day, in the afternoon, I received a call. It was my secretary at the firm. "Mrs. Miller, Diane Sterling called. She asked for you. I told her you weren't available, but she insisted a lot. She left a message." "What message?" "She said she needs to speak with you urgently, that it's about Chloe, and that if you don't call her back, she's going to come to the office." I took a deep breath. "Okay, thanks for letting me know." I hung up and looked at Chloe, who was sitting in the living room. "Your mother-in-law wants to talk to me." Chloe went pale. "What are you going to do?" I sat next to her. "I'm going to talk to her, but not here. I don't want her coming to this house. I'm going to meet her at a coffee shop, a public place." Chloe nodded. "Do you want me to go with you?" I shook my head. "No, I'm going to handle this. You need to rest." The next day, Thursday, December 23rd, I met Diane at a coffee shop downtown. I arrived on time. She arrived 10 minutes late. As always, she sat across from me with that expression of superiority I already knew. But there was something else, nervousness, worry. "Linda, thanks for coming." "I didn't have a choice. You said it was urgent." Diane ordered a coffee from the waiter. Then she looked at me intently. "I need Chloe to go back to Brad." I almost laughed. "Excuse me?" "I need you to talk to her, convince her, tell her that what happened Sunday was a misunderstanding." I leaned back in my chair. "A misunderstanding? Your son called my daughter a fat cow in front of your whole family, and all of you laughed. Is that a misunderstanding?" Diane clenched her jaw. "Brad was stressed. The pressure, the work, everything. He didn't mean to say that." "Of course he meant to say it. If he didn't think it, he wouldn't have said it." Diane raised her voice a little. "Look, Linda, I understand you're upset, but Chloe is his wife. She has responsibilities. She can't simply abandon her marriage because her husband said something in a moment of anger." I leaned forward. "Responsibilities? What responsibilities does Chloe have to a man who humiliates her, who doesn't work, who lives off her?" Diane turned red. "Brad is working. He has a job." "Yes, in my company, cleaning toilets, because it's the only thing he can do well." Diane closed her eyes. "That was unnecessary, Linda. You didn't have to humiliate him like that in front of the whole family." I laughed without humor. "Humiliate him? And what do you think he did to Chloe for a year and 7 months? What do you think he did when he told her nobody else wanted her? When he made her feel she should be grateful he married her?" Diane lowered her gaze. That was a mistake. But marriages have problems. That doesn't mean it should end." I shook my head. "This isn't a marriage problem. This is abuse, and I am not going to allow my daughter to return to a situation where she is mistreated." Diane looked at me with shining eyes. "And what is Chloe going to do? Is she going to stay with you forever? Is she going to be a divorced woman at 26? Do you know what they are going to say about her?" I stood up. "I care very little what they say. The only thing I care about is that my daughter is okay. And with your son, she was never okay." Diane also stood up. "This isn't going to end like this, Linda. Brad has rights. He is married to her. He can fight for her." I looked at her intently. "Let him try. But I'm warning you something, Diane. If your son gets near my daughter, if he tries to pressure her, if he tries to hurt her in any way, I am going to use every resource I have to destroy him. And believe me, I have many resources." Diane went pale. "Are you threatening me?" "No, I am warning you. There is a difference." And I left the coffee shop without looking back. When I arrived home, Chloe was in the living room, waiting for me. "What happened, Mom?" I sat next to her and told her everything. Chloe listened in silence. When I finished, she sighed. "I knew they weren't going to let him go so easily. They aren't going to let you leave without a fight. But it doesn't matter. We are going to face them." Chloe looked at me with eyes full of tears. "Mom, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I am strong enough." I took her face in my hands. "You are stronger than you think. And you aren't alone. I am with you. Always." That night, Christmas Eve, the two of us spent it alone at home, without a special dinner, without family, without celebration. Just us two, sitting in the living room watching old movies. But there was peace. For the first time in a long time, there was peace. Friday, December 25th, Christmas Day, Chloe's phone didn't stop ringing. Brad, Diane, even some cousins, all calling, all insisting, all asking her to come back. Chloe turned off her phone after the 10th call. "I can't take it anymore, Mom. I can't keep listening to them." I took her phone. "Then don't do it. Change your number. Block them. Do what you need to have peace." Chloe nodded. "Okay, I'm going to do it." Saturday, December 26th, we went together to change her phone number. It was a symbolic act, like closing a door, like starting over. When we left the phone store, Chloe took a deep breath. "I feel like I can breathe again." I smiled. "Because you are reclaiming your life." The following days were quieter. No calls, no messages, no pressure. Chloe started coming out of her room more often. She started helping me in the kitchen. She started smiling a little. Monday, December 28th. She told me something that surprised me. "Mom, I want to go back to work." I looked up from the newspaper I was reading. "Are you sure? You can take more time." Chloe shook her head. "No, I need to work. I need to feel useful again. I need to recover who I was before Brad." I smiled. "Okay, when you're ready, come back." Chloe took a deep breath. "I'm ready now." Wednesday, December 30th, Chloe returned to the office. The workers received her with hugs and words of support. Many of them had worked with Brad. Many of them knew how he was. One of the engineers, Mr. Henderson, a man of about 50 with 30 years of construction experience, approached Chloe. "Miss Chloe, so good you're back. We missed you." Chloe smiled. "Thanks, Mr. Henderson." Mr. Henderson lowered his voice. "And if you allow me to say something, you did right getting away from that man. We saw it. We saw how he treated you when he came to pick you up. We saw how he talked to you. And it wasn't right." Chloe nodded with shining eyes. "Thanks for telling me." That day, Chloe worked in silence. She reviewed blueprints, did calculations, answered emails, as if she had never left, and I watched her from my office, feeling that my daughter was coming back. Thursday, December 31st, the last day of the year, we decided to have dinner together at home. Nothing special, just us two. At 11 at night, we were sitting in the garden looking at the sky. "You know what, Mom? This year was the worst of my life, but it was also the year I woke up." I took her hand. "And next year is going to be better. I promise you." Chloe smiled. "I know." At 2 o'clock sharp, we heard fireworks. The new year had arrived. Chloe closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Goodbye to everything old, welcome to the new. And in that moment, I knew my daughter was going to be okay. Not immediately, not without pain, but she was going to be okay. Because she had made the hardest decision of her life. She had chosen her dignity over comfort. She had chosen her peace over the approval of others. And that in itself was already a victory. But what we didn't know is that Brad still had one card to play, and January was going to bring consequences that neither of us expected. January arrived with fresh air. The new year always brings that feeling of possibility, of a blank page, and for Chloe, it was exactly that, an opportunity to start over. The first days of January were quiet. Chloe went to the office every day. She worked on new projects, smiled more, talked more. It was like seeing a plant that had been withered start to bloom again. Monday, January 4th, we were in the office reviewing the budget for a new house when my phone rang. It was Mr. Henderson, the engineer. "Mrs. Miller, I need to talk to you. It's about Brad." I frowned. What's going on with him? He didn't come to work today. It's the third day in a row, and before the holidays he had already missed twice without warning. I sighed. Okay, thanks for letting me know. I hung up and looked at Chloe. She had heard the conversation. "Let him go, Mom. He's not your problem anymore." I nodded. "You're right. I'm going to fire him." That same afternoon, I sent Brad an email, formal, direct. "Dear Brad, due to unjustified absences and poor performance, your employment relationship with this company is terminated as of today, January 4th. You may come by tomorrow to collect your severance check. Regards." I didn't wait for an answer. I didn't care about his answer. The next day, Friday, January 5th, Brad arrived at the office at 10 a.m. I was in a meeting with a client. Mr. Henderson let me know he had arrived. I asked Mr. Henderson to give him his check and escort him to the exit. I didn't want to see him. I didn't want to talk to him. But Brad didn't leave. He waited outside my office for 2 hours. When my meeting ended and I came out, there he was, sitting in the waiting room, staring blankly. "Brad, you have nothing to do here anymore." He looked up. His eyes were red. He had been crying. "I need to talk to you, Linda." "We have nothing to talk about." "Please, just 5 minutes." I looked at my watch. Chloe had left early that day. She wasn't in the office. That gave me security. "Okay, 5 minutes. In my office." We went in. I closed the door. Brad sat across from my desk. I remained standing. "Speak." Brad took a deep breath. "I need you to tell Chloe to talk to me. She changed her number. She doesn't answer my messages. I don't know where she is." I looked at him intently. "She is where she needs to be, far from you." Brad shook his head. "You don't understand. I love her. I made mistakes, I know, but I love her." "You don't know what love is, Brad, because if you loved her, you never would have treated her the way you treated her." Brad covered his face with his hands. "I'm lost, Linda. I lost my job. I lost my wife. My family is disappointed in me. I don't know what to do." I felt no pity, only exhaustion. "That is your responsibility, not mine, and definitely not Chloe's." Brad looked up. "But she's my wife. She has to talk to me. She has to give me a chance to fix things." "She owes you nothing. She already gave you too many chances, and you wasted them all." Brad clenched his fists. "This is your fault. You convinced her to leave me. You put ideas in her head." I approached him. "No, I just showed her the truth. And the truth is that you are a weak, manipulative, cruel man, and my daughter deserves something better." Brad stood up, furious. "You have no right to say that to me." "I have every right, because I am her mother, and I am going to protect her from you or from whoever is necessary." Brad walked toward the door, but before leaving, he turned around. "You are going to regret this, Linda. Both of you are going to regret this." And he left. I closed the door and took a deep breath. I called Chloe immediately. "Honey, where are you?" "At home, Mom. Why?" "Brad came to the office. He's desperate. He wants to talk to you." There was a long silence. I don't want to talk to him, Mom. I know. I just wanted to warn you, just in case he tries to go to the house. Okay, I'll be careful. We hung up. That night, I reinforced the security of my house. I changed the locks. I installed cameras at the entrance. I wasn't going to take risks. The following days were tense. Chloe didn't go out alone. She always went with me. To work, to the supermarket, anywhere. Monday, January 11th, 2 weeks after Chloe had left, I received a call from Uncle Richard, the uncle from New York who had offered Brad a job. Linda, good morning. Sorry to bother you. Do you have a moment? Of course, Richard. Tell me. It's about Brad. I gave him the chance to work at my warehouse in Tacoma. He started January 7th. Today is the 11th, and I already had to fire him. I wasn't surprised. What happened? Richard sighed. He wasn't arriving on time. He arrived smelling like alcohol. He didn't do his tasks. The workers complained about him. Last Friday, he didn't show up. Monday, neither. Today, he appeared at 11 a.m. without apologizing, like nothing. I told him to leave and not come back. I closed my eyes. I understand. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Richard lowered his voice. Linda, I saw what happened at Christmas lunch. I saw how he treated Chloe. And honestly, it gave me shame. Shame that that boy is my family. Thanks for telling me that. How is Chloe? She's better. She's working with me. She's healing. Richard sounded relieved. That's good. She was always too good for him. We all knew it. Only nobody wanted to say it. We hung up. That same afternoon, I told Chloe. She listened in silence. I knew that was going to happen. Brad could never keep a job. He always had excuses. He always blamed others. And how do you feel knowing that? Chloe stayed quiet a moment. I feel relief, because it confirms I wasn't crazy, that everything I saw, everything I felt was real. I took her hand. You were never crazy, honey. You were just trapped. Chloe nodded. But I'm not anymore. The weeks followed, January advanced, and with every passing day, Chloe looked stronger, more secure, more her. Friday, January 22nd, a month after the Christmas lunch, Chloe made an important decision. Mom, I want to start the divorce process. I looked up from the blueprints I was reviewing. Are you sure? Chloe nodded firmly. Yes, I'm sure. I don't want to be tied to him in any way anymore. I want to close that chapter completely. I smiled. Then let's do it. The next day, Saturday, January 23rd, we went to a lawyer, a trusted man who had worked with me on contracts for the firm. We explained the situation. He listened to everything. Then he looked at Chloe. Mrs. Sterling? Chloe interrupted. Miller. Chloe Miller. I don't use the name Sterling anymore. The lawyer smiled. Apologies. Ms. Miller, based on what you tell me, this is a clear case. No children, no shared assets. The only asset is the apartment where you lived, which is in your name, correct? Chloe nodded. Yes, I paid the down payment with my savings, and I paid all the monthly payments. Then there is no problem. We are going to proceed with the divorce. It will take a few months, but it will go through. Chloe took a deep breath. How many months? Between 4 and 6, depending on if he signs voluntarily or not. And if he doesn't sign? Then we do it for abandonment of the home and psychological abuse, but it will take longer. Chloe looked at the floor. Okay, let's do it. We signed the necessary papers. The lawyer committed to sending the notification to Brad in the next few days. When we left the office, Chloe walked with her head held high. I feel like a weight was lifted off me. I hugged her. Because you did take it off. You are reclaiming your life. That night, we dined at a restaurant, just the two of us, celebrating her freedom. Chloe toasted with her glass of water. To freedom, to dignity, to starting over. I toasted with her. To you, honey, to your courage. Monday, January 25th, the lawyer called us. I already sent the notification to Brad. He should receive it today or tomorrow. Thanks, counselor. One more thing. Do you have any type of security at home? Just as a precaution. Yes, we have cameras and reinforced locks. Perfect. Just keep precaution. Sometimes when men receive these notifications, they react badly. I hung up and looked at Chloe. The lawyer recommends we be careful. Chloe nodded. Okay, I'm going to be alert. Wednesday, January 27th. Brad received the notification. I knew because Diane called me at the office. Her voice was cold, full of rage. How dare you, Linda? How dare you make Chloe ask for a divorce? I kept calm. I didn't do anything. It was Chloe's decision. That is a lie. You manipulated her. You told her to do it. No, she made her own decision because she is tired of living with a man who doesn't respect her. Diane raised her voice. My son respects her. My son loves her. Your son called her a fat cow in front of your whole family. Is that respect? Is that love? There was a silence. He was stressed, I already told you. And I already told you I don't care. Chloe isn't going back to him, and the divorce is going to proceed. Diane was breathing agitatedly. This is going to have consequences, Linda. You can't just destroy a marriage like this. I didn't destroy anything. Your son did, and now he is reaping what he sowed. Diane hung up. That same night, Brad came to my house. This time, he didn't knock. This time, he screamed from outside. Chloe, come out. We have to talk. I went out first. Chloe stayed inside as I asked. Brad, leave. You have nothing to do here. Brad was drunk. It showed in his voice, in the way he stood. I want to talk to my wife. She isn't your wife anymore, and if you don't leave, I'm going to call the police. Brad laughed. It was a bitter laugh. The police? You're going to put me in jail? Why? For wanting to talk to my wife? For disturbing the peace, for harassment, for whatever is necessary. Brad took a step toward me, but he stumbled. This is your fault, Linda. Everything is your fault. I was happy. Chloe was happy. And you ruined everything. I looked at him with pity. No, Brad, you ruined everything. And now you are paying for it. Brad stood there looking at me with hate. Then he turned around and walked away. He got into his car and left. I went into the house. Chloe was crying. Mom, I'm scared. I hugged her. I know, my love, but it will pass. He is going to get tired. He is going to understand he can't control you anymore. But deep down, I was scared too, because men like Brad don't let go easily, not when they feel they are losing. The following days were quieter. Brad didn't return, didn't call, didn't show up. And slowly, life started to feel normal again. Chloe worked, smiled, went out with friends she had stopped seeing during her marriage. She was becoming herself again. Saturday, February 14th, Valentine's Day. Chloe and I went to breakfast together. You know what, Mom? It's the first February 14th in 2 years that I don't feel sad. I smiled. And how do you feel? Chloe thought for a moment. Free. I feel like I can breathe, that I can be myself without fear of being judged, without fear of being humiliated. I took her hand. That is because you aren't in a prison anymore. You are in your own life. Chloe nodded. And never again am I going to let someone take that away from me. At the end of February, we received news from the lawyer. Brad had signed the divorce papers, without fighting, without conditions. He just signed. When the lawyer told me, I felt huge relief. Did he sign everything? Yes, he signed everything. The divorce will be finalized in the next 3 months. By May, Chloe will be officially divorced. I gave the news to Chloe that same afternoon. She didn't cry. She didn't scream with happiness. She just smiled. It's over. Yes, honey, it's over. In March, I found out through mutual friends what had happened with Brad. After losing his job with Uncle Richard, he didn't find anything else. He tried with several companies, but his reputation preceded him. Nobody wanted to hire him. Without money, he had to leave the apartment. He moved back with his parents, but the relationship with them was broken. Frank had lost respect for him. Diane was ashamed of him. Brad spent his days locked in his room, without work, without friends, without purpose. One of his cousins, the same Javier who had mocked Chloe at the Christmas lunch, told me in a casual meeting, "Brad is bad, Mrs. Miller, very bad. He doesn't leave his room." I felt no satisfaction. I felt no happiness for his suffering. I only felt sadness. Sadness because he had had all the opportunities in the world and had wasted them. And what is he going to do? Javier shrugged. I don't know. My aunt says he needs help, professional help, but he doesn't want to accept it. I nodded. I hope he finds it, for his own good. In April, Chloe started seeing someone, an architect she met at a conference, a kind, respectful man who treated her the way she deserved to be treated. One day she came home smiling. Mom, I met someone. I looked up. Yes? Chloe sat next to me. His name is Daniel. He's an architect. He works at a big firm. And Mom, he treats me well. He listens to me. He makes me feel valuable. I smiled. I'm very glad, honey. Chloe hugged me. Thanks, Mom, for everything, for saving me, for believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. I hugged her tight. I didn't save you, my love. You saved yourself. I was just there to hold you up. In May, the divorce was finalized. Chloe Miller was officially divorced, officially free. The day we received the final document, Chloe held it in her hands and cried. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of liberation. It's over, Mom. It's really over. I hugged her. Yes, my love. And now your real life begins. And so it was. Chloe bloomed. She designed incredible projects. She won awards. She recovered friendships. She found love. She smiled again like in that photograph from when she was 11 years old. And Brad stayed in his parents' house, without work, without purpose, without the woman who had kept his life functioning. The last time I heard about him, he was working in a call center, answering phones, 8 hours a day for minimum wage. Life, in some way, had collected its debt. Not because I had destroyed him, but because he had destroyed himself. And that is the most perfect justice of all, the justice that comes from our own actions. 2 years have passed since that Sunday in December. Today, Chloe turns 28. We are in the garden, surrounded by flowers, and she is laughing with Daniel, her fiancé. Brad called her crazy, told her no one would want her, told her she should be grateful. But today,